It was one of those crisp mornings where the sun felt more like a spotlight than a blessing, high, clear, and revealing everything. Marvin Deshaun Riley stepped out his dark blue Honda Accord, iron slacks neatly pressed, collared shirt buttoned to the top, shoes polished to a muted shine. He checked his badge once more, then slipped it into the inside pocket of his blazer. The strip mall in front of him didn't look like much. Half the signs were flickering or missing letters. But he wasn't here for appearances. He was here on assignment. Health inspection, unannounced. Just like it was supposed to be. He headed toward Griddle and Grain, a trendy brunch spot known for overhyped mimosas and undercooked eggs. The restaurant had recently racked up a few anonymous complaints. Unsanitary practices, expired food being reheated, mold in the back storage. Marvin wasn't there to shut anyone down. He was there to get the truth. Still, he knew the moment he walked through that door, nobody would see the truth of him. The chime rang as he entered. A couple of white customers turned to glance, then turned away. The hostess, a young white woman with platinum hair and gum chewing like it owed her money, gave him a quick once-over and didn't move. Marvin offered a polite nod. "Table for one?" he asked, his voice even. She barely looked up from her iPad. "We're full," she said flatly. Half the tables behind her were empty. Marvin's eyes swept the room calmly. "I see," he replied, glancing at the open booths. "Well, I won't be long. Just need a few minutes to—" Before he could finish, a tall, wiry white man with slick-back blonde hair and a button-up shirt that tried too hard to scream authority stepped out from behind the counter. His name tag read Trevor, Manager. He approached with a kind of smile that never reached the eyes. "Hey man, we're not open to loitering. You need something?" Trevor said, voice tinged with irritation. "Or you lost?" "No," Marvin replied, calmly. "Just here on business." Trevor folded his arms. "Business, huh? You a DoorDash guy or something?" Marvin let that insult hang in the air like stale grease. "No." Trevor gave a short laugh, glancing at the hostess. "You know what? I've been noticing a lot of people lately thinking they can just walk in, hang out, use the bathroom, whatever. Sorry, we got rules." "I'm sure you do," Marvin said slowly, "and I'd like to see them." Trevor stepped forward now, closer, the smile gone. "Okay, look, I'm not going to ask again. You can leave on your own, or I can call security. Your choice." That's when Marvin reached into his blazer pocket, slow and deliberate, and pulled out the smooth black leather badge wallet. He held it up with two fingers, let it flip open, revealing the embossed seal, State Department of Public Health, Division of Restaurant Oversight. Trevor's mouth hung open for a second, like his brain had tripped on its own feet. Marvin didn't say anything. He just let it sit there. "Wait." Trevor stammered. Wait, you're him? You're the—" "Yes," Marvin said, voice cold now. "Marvin Riley, lead health inspector for this district. I had this location flagged for a surprise evaluation." The color drained from Trevor's face like someone had pulled a plug. The hostess suddenly found something very interesting on her iPad. The entire mood in the room shifted like a tide. Customers were starting to glance over again. Marvin slowly stepped past them both and headed toward the kitchen doors. "Wait, sir, Mr. Riley, maybe we got off on the wrong foot." Trevor began, trailing behind him. Marvin turned just before he pushed through the double doors. His gaze was firm. "You judged my foot before you even saw which direction I was walking." He entered the kitchen, and it was worse than the complaints had hinted. Flies hovered lazily over uncovered meat. The walk-in fridge smelled like wet dog. Grease caked the walls above the fryer, and one of the prep cooks wore the same gloves he'd been using to swipe through his phone. Marvin's jaw tightened. He started documenting. Trevor hovered nervously in the doorway, hands twitching. "Look, we can fix this. I mean, these are minor things, right? You don't have to write all this up." Marvin didn't answer. He simply took out his camera. An hour later, Trevor sat in the office, pale and sweating, as Marvin laid out the violations. Temporary closure, fines, mandatory sanitation training, follow-up inspections every 2 weeks for 3 months. This could ruin us," Trevor whispered. "Maybe," Marvin replied, meeting his eyes. Or maybe it saved someone from salmonella. Either way, it's not about you. As Marvin stepped out into the bright afternoon, the air felt lighter. But just as he opened his car door, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Riley," came a low, gravelly voice. "I saw what you did at Griddle and Grain. That was bold." Marvin paused. Who is this? Let's just say, not everyone's happy about you digging too deep. This is bigger than brunch, sir. And if you're not careful next time, it won't just be a rude manager you're dealing with. Marvin stood still, eyes scanning the horizon. The job had just gotten a lot more complicated. The air felt heavier the next morning, like the city itself had secrets pressing down on his chest. Marvin Riley sat alone at his kitchen table, a cup of black coffee untouched in front of him, his mind turning over the voice from a night before. Gravelly, threatening, vague enough to be dismissed, specific enough not to be. He'd dealt with pushback before. Angry owners, legal threats, social media slander. But this felt different. Personal, coordinated, like someone knew what he was coming for. Even before he did, he opened his laptop, started combing through the database. Griddle and Grain had just been one name on a long list of restaurants flagged for inconsistencies. But now he started noticing patterns for other eateries with similar violations, all tied to a parent company called Delwyn Hospitality Group, a shell corporation based out of a P.O. box in Atlanta, with no public CEO, no public board, just layers of ownership stacked like camouflage. And that's when Marvin spotted something buried in an old report. Trevor Williams, the same manager from Griddle and Grain, had formerly been listed as a regional consultant for the group, fired quietly 2 years ago, only to be rehired under a different name and funneled back into a management role. The timeline didn't add up unless someone wanted him there, and wanted Marvin gone. He closed the laptop, grabbed his keys, and drove. 2 hours later, he was at the city municipal archives, deep in a file room that smelled like ink and dust. He pulled zoning records, sanitation filings, licensing audits. As he flipped through a stack of aged documents, a yellow sticky note fell out, written in sharp block letters. "Stop asking questions. Final warning." Marvin's jaw clenched. This wasn't just intimidation. Someone inside the system was watching him, tracking him. But how? His phone buzzed again. This time, a text. "If you want answers, go to 813 Ellington Drive. Back entrance. Midnight. Come alone." He didn't reply. He didn't have to. He already knew he would go. Midnight came fast. Marvin parked a block away from the address. The neighborhood, a forgotten piece of the city, graffiti tag walls, cracked sidewalks, shadows deeper than they should have been. He walked to the back of the warehouse-like building. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, rows of empty metal shelving. One light swinging above. A man stepped forward from the dark, tall, bald, with sharp features and a long overcoat. Black, stern. "You Marvin Riley?" the man asked, voice calm but tight. "I am. You sent the text." The man nodded. "Name's Reggie. Used to be where you are. Health Division, Enforcement Unit. 10 years ago, I started pulling threads. Same ones you're tugging now. Delwyn, fake compliance, phantom suppliers." "What happened?" Reggie's eyes darkened. "Got set up. False charges. Internal review. They buried my report. Threatened my family. I disappeared." He looked Marvin dead in the eye. "And now you're picking the lock I left behind." Marvin felt a chill crawl up his spine. "So what now?" Reggie stepped closer. "Now you finished what I couldn't. But you need to understand, this ain't about bad managers or dirty kitchens. This is organized, political. Some of these places, laundering money, moving product, using food licenses to ship more than food. And the people protecting them, they don't wear aprons. They wear suits." Marvin took a breath, slow and measured. "Who's behind it?" Reggie pulled a flash drive from his coat pocket. "Start here, but watch your six. You're already on their radar." Suddenly, bang, A loud crash echoed from outside the building. Tires screeched. Reggie grabbed Marvin by the shoulder. "Go." "They followed you." Marvin sprinted out the back, heart pounding, flash drive clenched in his hand. He didn't see the faces in the SUV that peeled around the corner, but he felt the warning. By the time he made it home, he locked every door, drew every blind, and slipped the drive into his computer. It loaded slowly. Inside were scanned files, audio recordings, bank transfers, names, dates, wire routes, surveillance footage. And at the top, a folder labeled City Hall Ties Confidential Ryerson. Marvin clicked it and froze. Councilman Ryerson, the same man who once publicly praised him for serving the community with integrity. There he was in a grainy photo, shaking hands with known criminal frontmen outside a Delwyn warehouse. Marvin's phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. A single text. "We warned you. Now you'll pay the price." The screen went black. The screen stayed black. No restart. No reboot. Marvin stared at the dead laptop, like it had betrayed him. The flash drive, everything Reggie gave him, was inside, gone, or worse, accessed. He stood up slowly. His apartment felt different. Off. The silence too perfect. He checked the front door. Locked. Back window, secure. But when he turned back toward his kitchen, a small detail stopped him cold. The salt shaker. He always kept it to the right of the stove. It was on the left now. Someone had been inside. He backed away, grabbed his phone. No signal. Landline dead. Marvin grabbed a folder from his drawer. Copies he'd made earlier that morning. Names. Records. Enough to still matter. Then he left, fast. No luggage. Just a folder, a hoodie, and the keys to his car. He didn't drive home. He drove to someone who owed him answers. Councilman Ryerson's estate sat nestled behind iron gates and manicured hedges, a world away from the neighborhoods Marvin served. Marvin knew showing up unannounced could get him arrested, or worse. But this wasn't about protocol anymore. It was about survival. The guard at the front hesitated when Marvin rolled down his window. "Marvin Riley, Health Division," he said flatly. The guard frowned. "No appointment. Tell him it's about Delwyn Hospitality. And about Reggie." A beat, then two. The guard vanished into the booth. When he came back, the gate opened without a word. Ryerson was waiting on the back patio. Tan suit, gold cufflinks, sipping bourbon like he hadn't been caught shaking hands with a known felon. "Mr. Riley," he said with that slow, snake oil smile. Quite the surprise. Marvin held up the folder. "You know why I'm here." Ryerson didn't blink. "Do I? You funded the Delwyn expansions. Your office signed off on their grants. And I've got footage showing you meeting with Gordon Hensley, who's still under sealed indictment." Ryerson chuckled. "You're a smart man, Marvin. Too smart to think this ends with a few sheets of paper and a flash drive." "You erased the drive," Marvin growled. "But I made copies. Enough to take this to the press. Maybe even the feds." Ryerson's smile faded. "You think you're the first righteous man who tried to blow this open? Reggie tried. Look where that got him. You think I'm afraid of someone like you? I built this city's appetite. You just inspect the crumbs." Marvin stepped closer. "You think being black and wearing a hoodie makes me easier to erase? Nah, that's your mistake. You don't see me as a storm, just the breeze before it. But I'm not here to scare you, Ryerson. I'm here to end you." Ryerson stood. "Then you'd better pray you can." That night, Marvin checked into a cheap motel under a fake name. He encrypted his documents, emailed pieces to 3 trusted allies, one to a friend in journalism, one to a federal contact he'd helped during a foodborne outbreak, one to Reggie. He included one sentence in each email: "If something happens to me, drop everything." He laid on the motel bed, tension still curled in his spine. He barely noticed a knock at the door until the third bang. He reached for the drawer, pulled out the small revolver Reggie gave him. "Who is it?" Marvin called out. No answer, just another bang. Then silence. Marvin crept toward the door. He checked the peephole. Empty hallway. He opened a crack. A folded envelope had been left on the floor. No markings. He opened it. Inside was a single photograph of his sister, walking her kids home from school, circled in red ink, and scribbled across the bottom, "Back off, or we touch blood." Marvin's hands shook, but not from fear, from fury. They thought they could silence him, bury him in threats, use family as leverage. But all they'd done was throw gasoline on the fire. He picked up his phone, called the only person who knew how to move in these shadows. Reggie answered after one ring. "They made it personal," Marvin said. Reggie's voice was low, grim. "Then we stopped playing defense." Marvin nodded. Time to take the war to them. The next morning, Marvin sat across from Reggie in a dim diner booth off the freeway. Somewhere safe, somewhere no one would think to look. The smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease didn't match the weight between them. Reggie looked older than he had a week ago. The fire in his eyes had dimmed but not died. "You sure you're ready for this?" Reggie asked. Marvin nodded. "I don't have a choice anymore." Reggie slid over a tablet. "Then you'll need to see this." What came on screen wasn't just damning. It was nuclear. Emails from Ryerson's assistant. Secret payout ledgers to Gordon's businesses. Inspection results rewritten. Digital signatures forged. And deeper still, photographic proof that Ryerson had been present at the warehouse where spoiled meat from Delwyn Supply was repackaged, relabeled, and sent to schools in black and low-income neighborhoods. Marvin's stomach turned. He saw a file labeled District Priority. Zone 3, his old neighborhood. The elementary school where his niece attended. The same one where a little boy had collapsed from food poisoning 2 weeks ago. They were poisoning their people because they thought nobody would notice or care. Reggie leaned forward. "They've been feeding us trash. For profit. For power. They didn't just want to shut us up, Marvin. They wanted to make us complicit. That's why Ryerson let you live. He thought fear would fold you into the system." Marvin looked up, jaw clenched. "Then we don't just expose them. We burn it down." They started with Gordon. He was easy to track, cower with pattern. Same golf club every Thursday, same mistress every Friday. Reggie posed as a food vendor. Marvin came as a delivery driver. When Gordon opened the back of the van, what he saw froze him solid. 20 pounds of rotted meat, wrapped in Delwyn labels, and a USB drive duct taped to the top. "You recognize this?" Marvin asked. Gordon's mouth opened, but nothing came out. "Don't worry," Marvin said. "You will, when the press does." Reggie stepped closer. "You've got two choices, Gordon. Talk or be the fall guy. Because trust me, Ryerson's not going down for you." They left him sweating. And 24 hours later, Marvin got the call. A reporter from Channel 6, a black woman named Kenya Broward, had just received a copy of the ledger from an anonymous source. But she wasn't just interested in the corruption. She was interested in Marvin. "You're the one they tried to erase," she said on the phone. That's the kind of story the city remembers. Ryerson, meanwhile, was unraveling. He'd received word that Marvin had visited Gordon, that the press was asking questions, that the Board of Health was doing a surprise audit. His hands were shaking as he called his private fixer, Wesley Garrison. "I need it handled," Ryerson said, pacing. "Now." Wesley's voice was cool. "You had one job. Contain it, but you made it personal." "He's just a health inspector." Ryerson snapped. "No," Wesley said darkly. "He's a man who doesn't scare easy. That makes him a problem." Ryerson paused. "So, what do we do?" There was a long silence. Then Wesley spoke. "We remind him why people like him stay in line. That night, Marvin's sister's house was broken into. No one was home, but the message was clear. Furniture smashed. Family photos ripped up. Spray paint on the wall. Your life, or theirs." Marvin's sister called him in tears. He listened, breathing heavy, heart pounding. But he didn't say a word. He just ended the call and packed his bag. Next day, Marvin stood outside the downtown courthouse in a dark suit. No hoodie, no clipboard, just the documents, the evidence, the truth. Reggie met him at the steps. Kenya Broward was already there with her camera crew. "You sure you're ready to put a target on your back?" she asked. Marvin didn't flinch. "It's already there. I'm just shining a light on it." As they walked toward the press podium, Marvin's phone buzzed. Blocked number. He answered. "You just made a mistake," the voice hissed. "Ryerson." "No," Marvin said calmly. "You did. When you forgot people like me come from fire." The press conference exploded across the city. Corruption, poisoned food, forged records. A respected black inspector turned whistleblower. By nightfall, Ryerson's office was swarming with investigators. Gordon was subpoenaed, and Marvin, he became the city's unexpected symbol of resistance. But the story wasn't over, because later that night, Reggie called him in a panic. "They hit my house," he said. "Files are gone. They cleaned it." "Who?" Marvin asked. Reggie's voice dropped. It wasn't Ryerson's people. It was someone bigger, someone above him. Marvin's heart sank. "You're saying Ryerson isn't the top?" "No," Reggie said. "He's the puppet." Then Marvin heard it. A car engine outside. Headlights flooding his motel window. Someone was here. Not press. Not police. He turned out the light, grabbed the burner phone, and whispered. Then we cut the strings. The motel room was dark, silent, except for Marvin's heartbeat pounding in his ears. The headlights outside didn't budge. Just idling, watching. Reggie's voice still hung in his ear. "It's not just Ryerson. There's someone else." Marvin grabbed the duffel, the burner phone, the flash drive with the remaining files Reggie hadn't sent. He moved low, past a window. A figure stepped out of the car. Not Ryerson, not Gordon, but a woman. Tall, cold presence, military posture. She raised her hand, and just like that, the headlights flicked off. Gone. Vanished into the night. Next morning, Marvin was at the city courthouse again, but this time, he didn't come to make noise. He came to make war. He stepped into the Inspector General's office with Kenya Broward at his side, cameras rolling. They'd uncovered everything now. Not just Ryerson schemes, but the silent network behind him. Contract kickbacks, shell companies, and high-level cover-ups stretching all the way to the mayor's inner circle. But they needed one more piece. One name. One leak. Marvin pulled out the flash drive. "This," he said, "goes public. Unless someone steps up. Now." Silence. Then the door opened, and in walked someone no one expected. Gordon, eyes sunken, suit wrinkled, soul hollow. "I have names," he said. "Emails. Recordings. I'm done protecting them." The room erupted. Within 48 hours, everything unraveled. Ryerson was indicted, facing multiple felony charges for conspiracy, fraud, and endangering public health. His mugshot aired during primetime news, the same hour Gordon testified. Reggie disappeared from public view, but Kenya confirmed he was in protective custody with federal agents. The DOJ was watching now. The mayor denied everything. But behind closed doors, resignations began to pile up. And Marvin? He stood on the city steps, this time flanked not by press, but by community. His old neighborhood showed up. The mothers who'd marched. The kids who ate school lunch every day. The ones they'd written off, poisoned, used. He looked into the crowd. No clipboard. No badge. Just the truth. "I was never invisible," Marvin said into the mic. "You just thought I was too quiet to fight back." The crowd cheered, but he wasn't done. "See, they like it when we fold. When we smile, nod, and take what they give us. But when we speak, when we stand, that's when they shake. They didn't fear me because I inspected kitchens. They feared me because I saw through the rot they were feeding us. In food, in power, in silence." Later that night, Marvin walked alone to the same diner where it all began. The same waitress. The same cracked tiles. But the atmosphere had shifted. The owner, Mr. Delgado, came out from the back, hands slightly shaking. I didn't know who you were," he stammered. "I didn't mean..." Marvin held up a hand. "You don't have to explain. Just do better." He stood up, walked toward the door. Delgado called out, "Who are you, man?" Marvin turned back. I'm the one y'all thought wouldn't fight. Marvin sitting at his niece's school play, smiling as she bows on stage. News ticker scrolls across a nearby parent's phone. Ryerson pleads guilty. Citywide audit expands. New ethics board formed under Inspector Marvin trailer. But just as the lights dim for intermission, Marvin's phone buzzes. Unknown number. He answers. A cold, calm voice. You made enemies, Inspector. Powerful ones. Pause. We're watching. Marvin smiles slowly, then hangs up, looks ahead, and whispers, So am I? Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that matter, and let's keep the conversation going.